My next review is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I really enjoyed the first two films, and the question, are you ready for one last ride, suggests this is the end of the road for the franchise. Perhaps it is, maybe it isn't. I certainly didn't want to miss this one in the cinema, so I caught it last weekend. Volume 3, I prefer more exciting titles. Numbers added reinforces the notion that these are sequels. I always thought sequels aren't considered as good as the originals. However, in my experience, sometimes I've preferred a sequel to the first film, and I think that actually applies with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 2017. I really like that. I've been a fan of Groot, and I really liked Baby Groot. It appealed even more than the first 2014 Guardians of the Galaxy. I just went to the cinema because I had a Cineworld Unlimited card, so at that time I saw just about every film that was on offer, and I very much warmed to Volume 1, if that's what it's known as. I didn't really know Chris Pratt, I don't think, at that point, but I warmed to him. I warmed to all the characters as I got to know them, and although sci-fi as a genre has only got limited appeal for me, I just got to feel that the characters were likeable. They disagreed with each other in a way that people often do, so it appealed on a human level. There was a lot of the dynamics that you get between friends with added humour. I just felt it was on my wavelength. I suppose the types of character, there's non-human characters. Rocket, there's been this question over. Rocket is a furry creature. Bradley Cooper voices his character. He is described often as a raccoon, and yet he's always objecting to that designation. Where that comes up in this story, there's quite a lot of focus on Rocket, his backstory, and I like Rocket as a character. I like them all. They've all grown on me, all of the different characters in Guardians of the Galaxy. Peter's Chris Pratt, he's human amongst the bunch. Abducted when he was very young. That was in the first episode, and he becomes the Star-Lord. Probably didn't like him as much this time, simply because right at the start he's getting drunk and he falls over and he's a bit of an idiot. I suppose that's human quality and happens with lots of people. I like all of the different people in the team, but Groot is still, I would say, my favourite, alongside the dog Cosmo, who has a collar that translates her thoughts. She was sent out into space by the Russians in the 60s, and her thoughts being translated by this collar. It feels original. I like all sorts of stories that get me laughing. Cosmo objects to a description of her by one of the other characters and makes a big deal out of it. There's also Mantis. Now, I really like Mantis as well, who's a very empathetic character, and she can make things happen. She's got these little antennae. She got the powers of hypnosis, that kind of thing. It's been 6 years since the 2017 Volume 2. I've seen, on average, well over 100 films a year. I saw 230 last year. No, 330 films last year. So the Guardians of the Galaxy story had drifted to the back of my mind. It was great being reacquainted with all the characters, almost like old friends, seeing them again on the big screen. Definitely really glad to have seen it in the cinema. My main criticism about the whole thing is that there's quite a lot of battles. They've certainly got enemies and they fight against them, and that's kind of fun, but special effect, that's probably the part of sci-fi films which least appeals to me. I've just seen so many explosions and gun battles. Seen it all. I kind of like human interactions, interpersonal reactions between characters, even if they're not human. And that's the case with quite a few of them in this. Gamora is talked about from the start because of what happens in Volume 2. There's the whole thing between her and Peter. What happens overall? There's tinges of sadness. I read something about there were gory scenes, and I don't know if they were on the BBFC the plate at the start of the film, there was something about injury details. So yes, there's stuff like that, but there was all-out gore, or at least not as I describe it. But there's a lot of ups and downs in the emotional stakes, and characters may or may not make it through. So it's all touch and go, and it's exciting and lots of threat. I suppose that's one of the elements that make up films a lot nowadays. At the end, I always stay to see the credit roll, and there are some post-credit scenes. But as I was watching other audience members leaving the cinema, I was surprised by mothers with youngsters leaving the auditorium. That's great that I don't think there was any upset going on. Maybe that's the thing. As I said recently, I'm going to look at Watership Down. I hope to cover that as a film since I saw it recently. But just the whole idea of what counts as suitable, age-appropriate for different age groups. How's that decided? I'd really like to explore that more. I'd like to understand how the BBFC and their equivalent in other countries come to their decisions about what works for different age groups, what is suitable for a particular audience, what counts as requiring parental guidance, what counts as being acceptable for 12-year-olds or 15-year-olds, what counts as nearly adult. Once you're 15, you can see an awful lot more, and so a lot of filmmakers aim for that. I suppose I can't remember so well the films I saw as a teenager. I probably did see a few films that weren't really meant for my age group, and I know a lot of people younger than me who saw VHS and DVDs. It often depends on parents' decisions and other people in the household. I don't know if there's any verification via passports and other identity to prove your age. Obviously, that probably matters more for films that are like the American NC-17 and the 18 certificate in the UK, because that's much more violent. But even the 15, there's quite a lot of violence, so perhaps that can be problematic when 13-year-olds see films that are rated 15. I'm digressing a lot, but that'd be interesting to look at. As far as this film, I will score it 8.5 out of 10. I really loved it, loved the humour. It is on the long side, but I stuck with it. I just thought it was a real thrill seeing it in the cinema. If there are further sequels, I'll probably watch them as well, because that is the kind of sci-fi action genre film that I enjoy. Thanks for watching. I'm thinking of recommending another film at the end of each of these clips, recommending a film that I think will suit viewer if you like this particular film. So I'll try and figure out what would be the most suitable. I have to go through my list and check, but I'll put that up in the comment area. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.